Saskatchewan stretches across the center of Canada, where the land opens wide and the horizon feels unusually close. Flat plains, long roads, and open skies shape the first impression. From above or at ground level, the scale of the landscape becomes clear quickly, defined more by distance and light than by dense landmarks. This province offers a travel experience built around space, nature, and a small number of distinct urban centers. Regina and Saskatoon function as regional anchors, surrounded by expansive agricultural areas that play a central role in daily life. Wheat fields, canola crops, and large farm operations dominate the countryside, creating a strong visual pattern that shifts with the seasons. Saskatchewan's central location influences the pace of travel rather than its direction. Distances are part of the experience, and movement across the province feels measured and unhurried. Instead of clustering attractions tightly together, places of interest are spread across the landscape, with rural communities and natural areas shaping the journey in between. The character of the land also changes as travel continues. In the south, Grasslands National Park protects one of the country's remaining prairie ecosystems, where the terrain remains largely open and undeveloped. Farther north, around Prince Albert National Park, forests and lakes begin to replace farmland, introducing a different rhythm and scale to the scenery. Together, these shifts explain how tourism works here. Saskatchewan is defined less by density and more by contrast, between cultivated land and protected nature, between open prairie and northern lakes. With this context in place, it's time to take a closer look at these places and see how they shape the experience of the province. The first stop is Regina, the provincial capital. The city feels open and low density, shaped by wide streets, large parks, and a calm, steady pace. Regina functions less as a tourist hotspot and more as an administrative and cultural center, where government institutions and local life set the tone rather than constant movement. What stands out here is the sense of space. The city does not press in on itself. Instead, it reflects the surrounding landscape, with room to expand outward and little visual congestion. This atmosphere often defines how visitors experience Regina: quiet, orderly, and grounded in everyday routines rather than spectacle. Beyond the city limits, the broader identity of the province becomes impossible to ignore. Saskatchewan is widely recognized as Canada's grain-producing heartland. Agriculture is not a side element here. It is a defining structure of the land and economy. Vast fields of wheat and canola stretch across the plains, organized around large-scale farming operations that rely on flat terrain and open skies. This agricultural character is not a traditional tourist attraction, but it explains much of how the province looks and functions. The road network, the spacing between towns, and even the visual simplicity of the landscape are tied directly to farming. Understanding this role helps clarify why the province feels the way it does, and why its travel experience is shaped more by geography and production than by density or monuments. One notable exception to Saskatchewan's flat profile appears in the southwest at Cypress Hills Interprovincial Park. Rising unexpectedly above the surrounding plains, this area forms a distinct highland landscape that contrasts sharply with the prairies below. Its location along the provincial border reinforces this sense of contrast, marking a clear shift in terrain rather than a gradual transition. Farther south, the landscape opens again at Grasslands National Park, one of Canada's most isolated and least developed national parks. Here, the prairie remains largely intact, protected from large-scale development and modern infrastructure. Roads are limited, services are sparse, and distances between points of interest are significant. This isolation is intentional, preserving the natural patterns of the grasslands and offering a clear sense of what this region once looked like on a much larger scale. One of the park's most significant features is its bison population. Plains bison were once central to prairie ecosystems, shaping the land through grazing patterns and movement. Their reintroduction represents a long-term effort to restore ecological balance. Today, these animals move within protected areas as part of a functioning landscape, reinforcing the park's role as a living prairie rather than a curated attraction. From here, attention shifts north to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan's largest city, shaped closely by the South Saskatchewan River. The river cuts through the urban landscape, creating a natural corridor that influences how the city is laid out and experienced. Bridges, riverbank paths, and open green spaces define much of Saskatoon's visual identity, giving the city a stronger connection to its surroundings than its size alone might suggest. Saskatoon functions as a cultural and economic center for the province. It has a more active urban rhythm than Regina, while still retaining a clear sense of scale. The city's growth follows the river rather than compressing inward, reinforcing the importance of landscape even within an urban setting. This balance between city life and open space plays a key role in how Saskatoon is understood from a tourism perspective. Just north of Saskatoon lies Wanuskewin Heritage Park, a culturally significant site set within the river valley. Used by Indigenous peoples for thousands of years, the area preserves archaeological remains and landscape features that explain its long-standing importance. Today, Wanuskewin combines natural surroundings with cultural interpretation, offering insight into how the plains were lived in and understood long before modern settlement. As the route continues north, the landscape begins to shift. The open prairie gradually gives way to denser vegetation, signaling the transition into the boreal forest. Fields become less frequent, tree lines grow thicker, and lakes start to appear more regularly. This change is subtle at first, but over distance the contrast becomes clear. The north feels cooler, more enclosed, and shaped less by agriculture than by water and forest. This transition leads directly to one of the province's most important tourism areas, Prince Albert National Park. Located at the southern edge of the boreal forest, the park sits between ecosystems, combining forests, lakes, and rolling terrain. It offers a very different experience from the southern plains, with opportunities centered around hiking, canoeing, wildlife viewing, and seasonal outdoor activities. The presence of lakes, such as Wanuskewin, shapes how visitors move through the park, making water a central element of the experience. Taken together, these places explain Saskatchewan's tourism character. The province is shaped by scale, transition, and contrast, between open farmland and protected grasslands, between prairie and forest, between quiet cities and remote natural areas. Travel here is less about density and more about understanding how land, distance, and environment connect. If this overview helped clarify what makes Saskatchewan distinct, consider liking the video and subscribing to the Wanderway channel for more documentary-style travel guides.